Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to Branding versus Marketing. What's the difference, and do you really need both? Just to give you guys a heads up, we will take questions at the end, so feel free to post questions in the Google Plus Hangout throughout, or mention us and tweet directly to us, and we'll take those at the end. All right, so for those of you who don't know us, I'm Amanda Sutt, and I'm creative director at Rock, Paper, Scissors. And this year, we have been in business for 30 years. So we've seen a lot of change, and we've done a lot of changing ourselves to keep up with the time. So just to give you a little background, we are a branding and web development firm. And we really like to focus on our clients' brands, not just their logo and their marketing collateral, but the entire experience that a client has with their audience, which in today's world does also include the digital experience. So we do have a really keen focus on websites, social media, email marketing, and all the pieces that go into that as well. All right, so branding versus marketing. So marketing has definitely been a buzzword for as long as any of us can really remember in the business world. Well, branding is, while a little more recent, is definitely gaining ground on the popularity of the term of marketing as well. And it's really hard not to find these terms being thrown around on blog posts and on social media, but there's a lot of assumptions that are made by authors that everyone knows the difference between the two. So I want to take a little time today to address what each of these terms really mean, and then we'll dive into, do you need one versus the other? So we're going to start with my favorite, which is branding. So whether you realize it or not, you already have an established brand. So that can be good news and bad news for some of you. Your brand is the manifestation of your beliefs as either a business leader, a product leader, or just a person. And specifically in this case, as seen through your products, your experiences, and your interactions. So your brand is not just a part of your business, it is your business. And your brand is how your audience connects with your business, their experience, and what they feel. More concretely, your brand can manifest itself as a logo or a website, a storefront, customer service, and all those little things in between. It is the touch points. Now, the other side of it is a brand is not just limited to your business. Every person actually has their own personal brand, and it is shown through the clothes that you choose to wear, the car you drive, how you treat others, the work that you do, and the list of items in your personal brand just keeps going. So that's just something for you to think about. And whether you're connecting personally or with your business, your audience takes in all of the information that is your brand and compiles it into a picture, a snapshot of what they think you are. So that being said, and to better frame this idea, the perception of your audience, the perception that your audience builds of you is what your brand actually is. So the truth is, no matter what you think you're saying with your brand, it really only matters how other people are interpreting it. So that's really critical to think about. So branding really is kind of a two-way street. You put something out there and you need to see how people are absorbing that in, and you need to make sure that those two things are aligning. All right, so there's good news that if you don't like it, is that you can change it. You can build a conscious brand and guide your audience to see your intentions and the best parts of you and your business. The key to intentional branding is just that in itself. You have to have aim behind your choices and your actions. And also another key ingredient is integrity. Today's audience won't stand behind a fraud. So let's talk about a good example of how this can backfire. We'll use Tiger Woods, who went from being branded as the golden boy to tabloid infamy. And he fell from races because people found out who he really was. And his audience was devastated because his brand wasn't actually aligned with who he was as a person. And that's where the biggest part of that disconnect came from. So when you're the golden boy and then you have all of these scandals happen, there was an issue. And you can think there's a lot of people out there today who are not great, amazing people who have solid brands, and people trust them because they're being honest about who they are. So branding really needs to have a sense of integrity with it. Now, another side of building a conscious brand is also being a good storyteller. So through the ages, as humans, we flock to a good story, whether it's Greek orators, Renaissance bards, or even today's gossip on social media. People love a good story. So when you're building your brand, you want to think about the story that you're telling about yourself and your company. All right, so that kind of wraps up branding in a very quick nutshell. And we have the flip side of that, which is marketing. And marketing and branding are two sides of the same coin. So marketing, while often and incorrectly substituted for branding, is not only about who you are, but it's about how you get things out there. So think about flyers, Facebook, brochures, networking, pay-per-click campaigns, billboards, okay, this list keeps going on. You get the point. So branding is the story, and marketing is making sure your story gets out there and that it's connecting. And if you've listened to any of your other webinars, I'm going to sound like a broken record on this, but the key with marketing is to start with your audience and not with you. Branding starts with you, marketing starts with your audience. So those are the two big distinguishers. So marketing is all about meeting your audience where they are so that you're providing real value to them. Well, let's say there are other ways to market. You can bombard and bully your audience, but we really don't want to build relationships. We want to build relationships and we want repeat customers. So once again, we're going with intention. So, and marketing is also important to think is more than just advertising. It can include it, but marketing uses targeted data and analytics and carefully crafted campaigns so that you know where your audience spends their time and what is going to be the most cost-effective way to reach them. And so it can include advertising, but it doesn't stop there, and it really is only limited by your imagination. All right, so now that we have a clear picture of branding and marketing, the question is, do you need both? And the answer is yes. But to frame this a little bit better, I like to use the analogy of spaghetti and meatballs. So you can have spaghetti and meatballs separately, but they really need to be paired with something. They're awkward on their own. And the truth of marketing and branding is that you can have a beautiful brand and then you don't market it, or it's marketed to the wrong people. So that's an awkward situation. Or you can be marketing without intentionally branding yourself, and then all you're doing is risking your messaging falling short and creating confusion and disconnect with your audience. So that's why you want both of them to come out. You have a better meal, you have a better experience. That's what you want to think about when you think about branding and marketing, is they really work together. So branding and marketing lift each other up so well that it'd be hard pressed to find a better combination when you're looking at this. So many businesses these days want to jump right into a marketing plan without taking the time to understand who they are, who they want to connect with, and the impact they want to make. So when you take the time to build a conscious brand of intention with your message and your marketing channels, it becomes easier to define when you understand both your branding and your marketing. And you stop wasting time and resources being in the wrong place and connecting with the wrong people and the audience, so that your business can actually thrive. So that's the short of it. Spaghetti and meatballs, branding and marketing, you want to put them together. I want to open this up to some questions if anybody has them. We collected some early on, so I'm going to go ahead and start with those, and feel free to post and tweet it at us as you feel as they come up. So first up, I have, how can I change my brand if I'm an established business? It's one of my favorite things to do. You can start anywhere, and you can start with really small choices. You could start with how everybody answers the phone. Make sure that that's consistent. You could start with updating your logo. You could paint your office. It's starting to make choices about how people will perceive you. because branding can be huge and all-encompassing, but it starts with one choice, and it's something you can start today. And your audience will start to feel that shift. Sometimes when you rebrand, you're going to scare some people off, and that's okay, because a lot of times they weren't the audience that you wanted. But then you're going to have other people who start flocking to you because it's connecting with it, and they love that. We have this new culture of brand loyalty that it's insane and awesome with the followership, and a lot of that comes because these brands have a sense of purpose behind it, behind their product or their service. That's not just the product and service, and that's what people really love. So, okay, let's see. All right, we also have another question is, how do I know if digital marketing is worth it? The first part of that is, I'm going to go back to my knowing your audience. and if your audience is in the digital world, then yes, it's worth considering. But then it's also being particular about specifically what digital marketing you want to use. I'm going to do a little spoiler and a hint. Our next webinar in April is actually going to focus on Google Analytics and kind of give an overview of our kind of a top 10 favorite things in Google Analytics. So it'll be a good one to come back and look at, and we can definitely focus in on how do you measure the success of a campaign. And that's what it all comes down to. If you're going to do digital marketing, first have your goal in place of what you're trying to accomplish. Then you figure out how you're going to measure it, and then you create your message. A lot of people start with the message and don't have any idea how to measure it, and that's when you get yourself in trouble. Okay. All right. Last question I have is, how can I know if my brand needs a renovation? There's multiple ways to answer this, and multiple reasons to want to. If you haven't updated your brand or thought about it in a while, there's a good chance you should at least consider it. And a lot of it's coming down to everybody else is doing it. And if you're the only person not doing it, you're going to start standing out in the wrong kind of way. Another reason to do a brand renovation is if you have some type of leadership change and you really want to show that there's a new vision for the company, or there's a new direction or a new product or anything like that. That's worth starting to really look at your brand and the message that's going out there, so that people not only hear the change that's happening, but they see it, because there's nothing quite like having a logo that was developed in the 70s and you're trying to roll out a new product and you just look dated. So how can they trust, and this is all subconscious perception we're talking about here, how can they trust a new innovative product when your brand looks like it's 40 years old? And so that's what you want to start thinking about is the brand really a reflection of what you're conveying out there? And if it is a reflection of what you're doing, then you're in good shape and you don't need to look at rebranding. But if you feel like there's a disconnect and that the message that's going out there is not connecting, then that's definitely a reason to consider rebranding. So it looks like that is it. So a nice, quick, short webinar for you guys today, but hopefully you had some good takeaways, and to start thinking about the difference between marketing and branding, and how do you start doing both with intention so that you can build a business that is effective and efficient. So, if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to us, and have a great day.